Hi, everybody. Welcome to Awaken Your Highest Self and Happy New Year for 2026. We've got the fantastic Judith Collins here in New South Wales in Australia, going to chat to us about what she's up to now. She's got some exciting news, I hear.
Yes, I've started when I wrote the Aura book 36 years ago, there's a lot of things I left out of it because I had gauged from doing so many auras that people weren't ready for this information.
Okay.
And I had to really make up my mind. I spoke to the publishers at the time, and the publishers said, you put in what you think, leave out what you think. And so I left a lot of things out. But we've got a planet that is spiritually advancing now. So I'm starting to get the things out onto my website.
Brilliant.
So I've opened a whole new category called the Journey of the Soul. And because the soul has got lots of inside the aura, most people will have never heard this, but this is about to be loaded up as a post in about a week's time. And that is the aura has within it a auric, A-U-R-I-C, auric matrix. And a matrix is not the modern world as we know as the matrix, right? But it's a matrix, which means it's got all these different colored patterns. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little iridescent, luminescent little boxes that like a phone screen, so small. And it sits within the aura and it's impenetrable.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Get that word, impenetrable.
Okay.
So if you were having healing, it can't go through to that. If you were to be hurt in a car accident or shot, can't go through that. Nothing. It's impenetrable because it travels with us every lifetime. And it's what we would call a data collection unit.
Okay.
So it's got everything about every lifetime, whether or not you've lived it on this planet or that planet or with these people or you've traveled through life as a group of souls. It's got all that information on it. That's what I'm about to do. But one of the things I decided to do, which I've been reluctant to for a number of years because of people's locked in concepts. What is an old soul?
Right. Yeah.
Now, when you hear people talk about what's an old soul, what do you think it is, Graham?
Someone who's had many incarnations before and seems to be carrying perhaps some sense of wisdom about the world. That would be my perception.
That's your perception. But your perception doesn't match the perception of the majority of people.
Okay.
When people come to me to seek advice, they say, I must be an old soul because I've come to the end of everything. I just can't deal with anything anymore. And I
Okay.
said, well, that's not an old soul. That's a young soul just
Okay.
starting their journey, right?
Right. Right.
I had the pleasure, and I've had discussed this with you before, I had the pleasure in the early 1990s of being at a big psychic fair, and a woman, an elderly woman, walked through past the stall, and the corner of my eye caught her aura. And I got one of my staff to run after her and bring her back. It was the end of the show.
I
So I
remember.
asked her if she could wait. And then there she was, 84 years old, and she knew nothing about, what do you do? What's an aura? What are you doing here? She didn't understand any of it. She'd just come. Her daughter had a stall selling essential oils because she was a naturopath, and she just come to help her daughter. So she didn't know anything about anything in the show. And she strikes me and I spot her aura, and it was glorious. There were colors in it that it had been a long time since I'd ever seen. When you see the aura of an old soul, it's unlike nobody else's aura. Nobody else's aura has certain colors in it that nobody else has. And seeing and reading auras, I can spot them a mile off, but
Okay.
you don't see them. You don't see them. We would think, given all the knowledge and esoteric development, spiritual enlightenment that people have got around the world, all the work that they're doing on themselves, we would think that we would find old souls in there, but we don't. They're
Right.
few and far between.
Okay.
Few and far between. And an old soul can be recognized by some parts of their behavior, but mainly by their aura. An old soul doesn't want to have anything to do with fame or glory.
Okay.
They usually want to lead a life where they're excluded from the hub of society. You know, going to live in the wilderness or the prairie if you're American, or the likes of me living on the land with no neighbours. I do that because I know what auras do, so I make sure I've got nobody's aura around on my property.
Okay.
I've most probably got cows and sheep, and that's about all, right? But it's very, very interesting in the old soul. Now, an old soul chooses its lifetime, like all souls do. First of all, we'll say in the story and lessons of souls that no soul is forced to reincarnate.
Okay.
So people need to know that. If you're in your lifetime and you're having hardships and you're being confronted by stress and worry, your soul has chosen that. You have not been forced to reincarnate. There's
Okay.
no pattern of that. You can live out that time. You can do those lessons in different ways. But the life that we all pick, whether we think it's good, mediocre, fabulous, or absolutely unbearable, we've chosen it.
Okay.
And the harder the life is, this is what the aura tells you about souls. The harder the life, the more difficult the life is, the quicker the lesson.
Okay.
Yeah. I did the aura of a woman who was gang raped, and she came to me for me to assess her healing, because she felt as though she was still having nightmares and terrors and all of that. Now, her soul, I spoke to her about that. Her soul chose that, and she is consciously coping with that.
Right.
Yeah, but her soul chose a very quick lesson. That's hard for us to fathom, isn't it?
Okay.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I did counselling for 15 years, and knowing all this about auras.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would look at the pain that some of the people were in and thought, your soul chose it. But that doesn't mean to say it's worth living.
Right. Okay. Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
So, are you saying that? Can I ask you a question? Is your perception or understanding that souls? So, if there's, are you kind of saying there's like a timeline for a soul that it would come into? Say somebody had passed away from one life, and then it's out there in a particular um, sort of is it in the etheric sort of field or the auric field, and then it chooses to come back in. Is that what you're saying?
Doesn't quite, the gist of that is correct. That's correct. But basically what happens, because I've watched, as you know, I've had the pleasure of going through death with people and watching what the aura does when the spirits come in, when deceased relatives come in.
Right.
That was most probably for me the most wondrous experience I've ever had, is
Right.
watching the death canal through the aura, and
Yeah.
watching what separates and what the solar plexus does. The
Right.
solar plexus works overtime in death. It really, really does. And what carries around, and what part, how the aura separates, and it's just mind-boggling. One day I might just write a book on the death
Yeah.
through
I
the
think
aura.
that would be fascinating because there's a movie.
Well, I don't.
There's a
Yeah,
movie that talks about how that the soul has a particular weight, and when the soul leaves the body, that the body weight of that physical body, there's a difference. So that, but I don't know if you've seen that, or it might be just some Hollywood fiction about a
yeah,
concept
yeah, yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Well, basically, what happens is when the person is dying, the etheric and the physical mold together They usually float above each other, but they mold together. And you can see the ripples on the side, as if somebody got a sewing machine out and stitched around to make sure that they never come apart, right?
Okay.
Then the solar plexus comes. As soon as that happens, the solar plexus comes in, and she opens like you know, a hole, like the Grand Canyon, just opens so wide. It opens wide. It goes way, 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 way out the aura, and it does this on everybody.
Right.
Because I've watched an old lady, 2 old men, a woman in her 20s, a young child. And it happens the same in every one of them.
Okay.
Once that happens, everything starts to come together, and everything that's locked into the aura and the astral aura. The astral aura gets sucked in, picks up everything, gets thrown out again. You can't, without the astral aura, you can't travel through time. You can't reincarnate, because it's got your code on it.
Okay.
That's the only, I'm trying to use language that people will understand.
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah.
It's got your stamp code on it.
Right.
And so yours might finish with 20B.
Right.
And so all the 20Bs go to the same place, right?
Okay.
And so they're all going to incarnate again. All the souls are going to merge to say, I'll come back with you. You can be my baby. I'll be your grandparent. And they get a scenario together. And the scenario is based on not what we understand. We can't even begin to understand the planning because we've got a logic mind. And we've got a heartfelt sense that we don't want to see children be sexually abused, or women be raped, or people to be tortured, or refugees to be chased out of their own country. We don't want that. So therefore, we won't understand what their choices are. Their choices are about self-evolvement, because a soul, and I've just written this bit in the Matrix thing, that the soul has to balance material and spirituality. So it doesn't develop its spirituality and enlighten itself, but it has to balance the material experience. That means it has to sleep in a bed. It has to have a kiss. It has to have a hug. It has to make love. It's evolving in the spiritual realm, and their emotions in the aura transcend to spiritual energy. I've watched a mother die, and her 3 children under the age of 12 around her bed crying, and the love that she had and the bond she had for her children, I watched it turn into little flakes of colour and go across and over their heads like somebody was blessing them. And then got sucked up into all the colours and moved. It's fascinating. It's just fascinating because there's a lot of things in the spiritual development that I have learnt that we can try to understand it, and we can understand it to the best of our logic, but there's some things that we can't understand. We just can't understand why. If you look at a child at the age, like I worked in child welfare for 15 years, and I had to deal with 6-month-old babies that had been sexually abused, penetrated by their drug addict father, because he was out of his mind. The little girl didn't have a nappy on, and he just saw what he saw and did that. And she was rushed to the children's hospital, and she had a hysterectomy at 6 months old.
Oh dear.
Now, what soul would choose that?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There's things out there in life, you think, well, our logic will never understand what the pattern is in that. Do you choose those lives as punishment? No. Do you come back? You look at the likes of the crimes that Hitler, did on the world, and underneath everything in the aura, and this is what you see in an old soul, is that with this matrix core, you see a wholeness. And that wholeness stays no matter what you do. You can be a terrorist and killing thousands of people, but you're underneath, your aura stays whole. That allows you at any time in your journey, be it now at 18 running a machine gun, or there at 84 making peace with everybody in the village and making peace with yourself. It allows you to heal. That's what it does. So we can have a whole range of things. I met a woman the other day who's been into 6 marriages, right? 6 marriages. And I said to her, well, aren't you fortunate that men marry you? I know lots of women who can't get anybody to marry them. Aren't you the lucky one? And she laughed. And then she started to tell me her story. Now you look at that, under her aura, she's got a whole aura and all this chaos and trauma on top of it. That allows her to be enlightened and find a new way.
Okay.
Yes.
Is
Also
that because,
too,
is that because she's learning lessons? Is that because she's learning lessons from each marriage?
yes.
Right.
Yes. This has got nothing to do with the matrix. The matrix is impenetrable. It just stays there, and it does do things, but you can't request it, you can't demand it, you can't penetrate it, you can't put x-rays through it, you can't put radiation through it, you can't put atomic stuff through it. It's impenetrable, right? Impenetrable. And it travels with us. It can change its, if it's threatened by physical ailment, such as a shotgun, right?
Yeah.
It can change its patterns instantly into a gas.
Okay.
It's amazing. That's why I didn't put it in the Aura book all those years ago, because it would have baffled people.
Yeah.
Because people were coming to me saying, oh, my aura is blue. I've been told it's blue. That's impossible.
Okay.
And if it's green, it's impossible. I've also reached the conclusion that most people who talk about auras around the world, only the ones I've heard, that's not everybody, right? Only the ones that I've come across, they're not talking about the human aura. They're talking about the reflection and the vibrations of the chakras. We have 112 chakras in our body, right? And they all vibrate colours.
Right.
And I think what's happening, people are seeing the vibrations of that, which sit in the etheric layer of the aura. So they get past the physical, which is only about that thin, right?
Yeah.
Get past that, and they see all these swirling vibrational colours. And they're the chakras, because you've got chakras here and one at the back of the head and the neck and here at the shoulders and down here and throats and everywhere you've got chakras. And so they're all vibrating colours. It's not until you get past that you get patterns. You get woven patterns, checks, you get little fabrics, you get sparks, you get little crow's feet, you get all these different patterns of colours, and that's where the aura is. And that's what it tells you, who you are and what you are. And the most important reason for anybody who's listening to this program to know, you must find the core color of your aura. It has a core base color. You must find it, because when you wear or live with those colors,
Right.
your life can get back to balance.
Okay.
It can get back to renewal. You can get through things, whether they be health, financial, relationships. You can get back to that, because color is everywhere in the atmosphere. Everything's got an aura. Every living source has got an aura. That tells you something about the importance of an aura. If trees have got it, ants have got it, spiders have got it, cats and dogs have got it, if grass has got it, and we've got it, what's the importance of it? This is what I asked as a little girl. Okay. Why does everything come in color?
Okay.
And that's what caused me to volunteer to go to the war in Bosnia. And I wanted to go with the Red Cross to Bosnia into the war, because I wanted to experience the auras of people who were stressed under warfare, watching mothers with children, watching the black market, watching soldiers who were terrified that they had to go and fight yet again, and all these things, because this is what teaches you about the human aura. To me, growing up, learning about the aura, if I had just stayed in my nice, happy little family and married my soulmate, which I did, and just had an ordinary life, to me, auras would just be ordinary day-to-day things. But when you take people and you put them as refugees, and you put them as lost children who can't find their parents, and you put them as young men who have shot their first person and they don't know how to cope with it. They're in the army, but they've shot the first person dead and they can't cope with it. And you see it all processing in the aura, see all the lessons working. And I came to the conclusion the other day when I was sitting on my veranda eating an ice cream, because it's stinking hot in Australia at the moment.
Lovely.
Sitting in this room right now, it's 32 degrees Celsius. Anyway, I started to think about all the places that I've put myself over the years in order to learn things about the lessons, you know, working with detectives, working in hospitals, everything that I've learned about auras. And the old souls that I have found have never been in the esoteric field. Never. I found an old soul living in a hospice, dying in a hospice. All his family had died. He was 98 years old and he lived out the life. I had the opportunity to sit and talk to him about what his life was about.
Sorry, Judith, there's only 1.5 minutes left of the video recording. I just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so the old souls don't tend to be amongst the spiritual or the esoteric thing. They seem to be out there in common life, because old souls choose not to shine.
Okay.
They help. They're intense. They help everybody.
Fascinating. I mean, I'd love to chat to you more about it. If you've got a little bit of time, we could jump on another call in 9 minutes or so and continue talking.
Yeah, we can do that. Yep.
Lovely. Okay, well, I'll press pause now and then we'll continue chatting in a minute. But thanks very much for sharing everything.
My pleasure.
I'll call you in 9 minutes. Take care.